Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's Resto, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the 19 Twink Druid. In this video, I'm going to be going over the best in slot gear options that you guys are going to be using. I'm also going to go over some alternatives that you guys can use as well. I'm also going to be covering the talents, the typical talent builds that you guys are going to be using throughout your battleground experiences. And then I'm also going to cover some tips and tricks just to kind of overall help your guys' battleground experience be a little bit smoother and just overall help you guys in general. So without further ado, let's get right into the guide. Alright, you guys, welcome back. We are doing the 19 Twink Druid today. Hope you guys enjoyed the rogue guide. We're moving in hot with the new class. So this one is a favorite of mine. As you guys know, this is literally what makes me a Twink is an FC. I personally love the Druid, been playing it since vanilla. So over a decade of doing this, and I have a blast, but here I am going to share some builds with you guys so you guys can make your very own Druid. So I'm going to start off with the FC build for the Horde. There are different alternatives that you can use, so I mean, not really much. It's pretty straightforward to an FC, there's not really much to it. The gear is a little bit different, so in terms of like getting, right, like I want to say majority, 90% of the gear is usually bought because it's all BOE. There's really no dungeon gear involved. It's all quest or BOE, so that's what's cool about an FC. But nonetheless, let's get right into it. So just like before, you're going to start with a lucky fishing hat. Get this every Sunday around 4 p.m. on your server. I personally am on Farelina. It is quite a bit of competition in the beginning. Now there are still some people that go for it because they want to go for the ring. So my server is a little bit more of a higher population than most. I would recommend going on a lower pop server for these items, by the way. This is for any class you go for, any twink that you go for. I know a lot of twinks currently on the classic realms. There are people on Old Blanchy, and there's also people on Mankrik. I know Mankrik has a really good population for twinks, for Horde at least. For the Alliance, I think it's Old Blanchy. I don't know where the main Alliance server is, but I know those are the two main servers that a lot of people are on as well. I know a few kind of scattered around on Paggle. But me personally, I'm on Farelina. I just kind of keep it with my 80s. I'll probably eventually make some twinks over there as well. But with the recent update, there was a patch that just came out to where you can kind of cross realm queue. Pretty neat, but if you want to be with your homies, you know, obviously be on the same realm, but you don't have to do that anymore. But moving on, we're going to go to the PvP neck. This is a very easy item to get, guys. Any Warsong Gulch weekend that you guys are going into, just know that you guys can literally get this and your PvP ring in literally the same day. It's not hard to get honor nowadays, like 2 or 3 games without a BG weekend. You can totally get it. Super easy to get, guys. But these are pretty much go-to items for any twink that you go for, considering we don't really have many options for our necks. And the lower end on the expansion side. Moving on to the shoulders, we're going to go with the lasting feral heart spalders. So the reason why we go with this is for the resilience. As an FC, obviously people are going to be targeting you. We're the main focus in every single game that you go to because you're carrying the flag. You are part of the objective. So with that being said, you want to be able to mitigate as much damage as possible. So having a resilient shoulder is a must. Going on to the neck is the spider silk drape. You're going to put 70 armor on this. Now, what's nice about this cloak is you can make this as many times as you want. Now, the reason why I say that is you want to put multiple different enchants on there. You want to put 70 armor, you want to put shadow resistance, you want to put all resistance on it. Now, the reason why you want to have multiple of these cloaks is because in every game, there's always going to be a different kind of comp that you're going against, or maybe you're going against a set of twinks. They're not pre-made, but maybe there's just one twink that's decked out. And let's say it's a Shadow Priest, right? And you're rocking 70 armor, and it's mainly a bunch of casters. Doesn't really make sense to run 70 armor when you got a bunch of casters hitting you, right? So you're going to put on some all resistance, or you're going to put on a shadow resistance, depending on who you're going up against and what's on the other team. It's always nice to have this kind of in your bag for your leisure to kind of swap out as you need, I should say. Moving on to the chest, you got toughened leather armor. So this right here is my go-to for when I'm like a solo FC, but I have some healers with me. I will run this by myself with no healers as well. This is a very, very good must-have cloak just to have in your inventory. I know a lot of people, what they'll do nowadays is instead of wearing this, they'll wear the Inferno robe and they'll put 150 health on it. I know that's an option too if you're going to be by yourself, just for the extra spell power, so that way you can kind of get some stronger hots. So that is an option that you guys can do as well. Me personally, this is what I run. Majority of the time, there's usually always a healer within the game. I don't really have an issue with this. Something I do as well when I'm wearing this is like when I'm by myself, and I'm not trying to die, I will wear this. It's got 92 armor compared to the 53, plus it's got 13 stamina with 100 health on it. So, I mean, you're getting a little bit more stamina, a little bit more armor, you're a little bit more tanky. So that's kind of why I go with this. But I do swap in between the two depending on the scenario that I'm in. But moving on to the shoulders is the regular wristbands of the stamina. You want to get 5 stam on this and put a 9 stam enchant on here. This is quite a pricey bracer on my server, at least. I don't know about the other servers. You might be able to get it for cheaper. In terms of farming it, it's not really that hard to get. It's just a matter of just going to do it and getting the right branch of it, which is of the stamina. So, I mean, go about it as you will, depending on the server. Like I said, for my server, it's going for about 2,300 gold. Pretty similar to a Shadow Fang. This is a very high prio wrist to get, just because it's used by multiple classes and not just a druid. You know, shamans use it, rogues use it, so it's just really depending on, you know, what class is out there, but your server is real dependent on the server price. Moving on to the weapons, so I personally use the Blessed Hammer of Grace. That way there's more resilience, guys. I'm using resilience on my weapon, I'm using resilience on my trinket, and I'm also using resilience on my shoulders. That's all stacking up. That's all DPS mitigation that you guys could be utilizing. Definitely take advantage of that, although you don't have to run this, right? So I put 22 intellect on here. You can also run the Devout Aurstone. You know, you can rock that as well, put 22 intellect on it. It's really up to you and what you prefer. I just go with this because of its resilience. I like the resilience stack. That way it's top prior on my damage mitigation, so I'm not dying as quick. You know, but like I said, it's all preference. This is what I personally run though. With your offhand, you're going to run Furbolg Medicine Pouch. This is with any spec that you're going to be doing with the druid. This is like the must, never going to be swapped out, always going to have this. So definitely make sure you guys get this. It's another easy thing to get. I got a guide on my channel. If you guys don't know how to get it already, you guys can find it there. I can also link it down in the description below. You can pretty much do this AFK, just have somebody do it, or if you have an alt account, just kind of park your tune in the middle of the lake and just kind of run around, kill all the Furbolgs. It would take you about maybe 2-3 hours, depending on the spawn rate on your server. Population kind of takes in play on that, so really just depends on how fast the mobs respawn to when you can get this. But that's pretty much the weapons. Something you guys could do as well is you can get the Staff of Freer for the Horde and put 20 spirit on this. So you're pretty much getting 31 spirit total. And what's the purpose of this is, if let's say you cross mid, you know, you're low on mana, you're kind of low on health, but you don't want to wait forever for everything to kind of regenerate. Well, plop this on and then kind of do your food and drink, or you can even plop this on while you're running around and getting to where you need to be, so that way your kind of health and your mana can regen a little bit faster. This is definitely something I recommend that everybody goes and gets and does. You can also do a full spirit build if you want. I really don't care to do a full spirit build. I'll just pull on the staff. It's good enough, you know, it kind of boosts up what I need. It does the job. Same thing with the Alliance. You guys would be rocking the Staff of Westfall. Just plop on 20 spirit, same thing. 31 Alliance is nice because you guys have the option between this or this, so it really just depends if you want, you know, 2 extra intellect, or do you want stamina on it as well. Completely up to you. You guys both get spirit regardless, so it's not like you're losing out on spirit. It's just a matter of whether or not you want stamina. So you can go with either or. If I was Alliance personally, I would go with the Staff of Westfall, just because it's something different. It's something that, you know, you won't see very often. Staff of Freer everyone can get. I'm the type of twink that likes to get items that stand out, right? Like, instead of, like, for example, for the rogues, instead of getting Wrangler wristbands of power or of agility or whatever the agility one is, I would get Forest Leather Bracers, just because it sounds different, it looks different, it's unique, it's its own little thing. That's how I kind of like to gear my tunes, but like I said, not everyone cares about that. Not everyone's like me, so obviously get what's available if that's what you want to do. Moving on to the gloves is the Scouting Gloves of the Eagle. You're going to put on 16 spell power for this. This is obviously a go-to brainer. Nothing much to this. Every FC is going to use this. It's stamina, intellect. It's an all-around good glove. Not really much to this one. You can buy this off the auction house for pretty cheap. For my server, they're not really that expensive. I think the most I've seen it was for like 300-400 gold. So it really shouldn't be too much of an issue to find one of these. For the belt, you guys are going to want to go with the Aquarius belt. This is a huge belt, guys. This is a self-heal. Not so much for the hit and crit. That doesn't really matter. It's more so for the 280 to 360 health bonus that you get. It's pretty much like a health stone, right? That you guys have 24/7. Well, not really 24/7 because it's on a 5-minute cooldown. But what I like to do is once I do use this belt, I don't just keep it on because at that point it's just dead weight. It's just a useless belt at that point. So what I'll do is I have a macro swap. So once I pop this, utilize it, get out of combat, I'll swap into the girdle of the Blind Watcher and utilize this until my belt comes off CD, because this is 7 stamina, 8 intellect compared to 5 hit and 6 crit. Obviously, you're not really going to want to miss out on the 7 and 8. You want this. So obviously swap that out when it's on cooldown, and then when it's off cooldown, go ahead and swap back. That way you can utilize that little health stone again. For that way when you're in any type of combat situation, you can get that quick heal off and move on to the next. Moving on to the pants, you're going with the Scouting Trousers of the Eagle. There's really nothing more to this, guys. Every FC, just like the Scouting Gloves of the Eagle, this is going to be a go-to. It's 5 stam, 5 intellect. There's nothing that really compares to this. You guys are going to go ahead and pop on the 24 armor. So obviously you cannot do this on a 19. You're going to have a higher level do this. So you can either send this over to one of your higher tunes, or you could just have somebody in org and have them do that for you, whatever you prefer. I always send it to my tunes first and then have them enchant it and then send it back to my tune again. That way I know I'm dealing with it and I don't have to deal with somebody else with, you know, a risk of whatever happening. There are people out there that will do something stupid. So that is something that you could do as well, so you guys can prevent any risks or errors from happening. Moving on to the boots is the Spider Silk boots. This is a go-to for a lot of twinks, especially for, you know, your go-to. It's the Spider Silk boots because it's a 4 stam, 4 intellect, and you got 8 spell power. So it's a nice overall spell boost to your heals. Something that you guys can do, and I'll show you later with the stam, it's going to be a little bit different, but majority of the time this is the build that I'm running when I'm FCing, is all this stuff right here. Same thing with the ring, like I was mentioning with the Scout's Medallion. This is coming from a PvP. Like I said, guys, if you guys are going hard in the paint, you guys can easily get both items in one game on a BG weekend. If it's not on a BG weekend, give yourself about 2-3 games, right? Actually go for it. I mean, I would hope you guys were trying all the time, going for the objectives, not farming in the middle. Silly guys. Go for these, and you guys get these within 2 to 3 games. Easy clap. No complications with this whatsoever. And then for the Horde, this is where we get favored, is the Seal of Sylvanas. 8 stamina is the main objective. Don't really care about the strength. It's more so for the stamina. That is a huge ring and a huge boost of stamina. It's pretty much like another lucky fishing hat just sitting on yourself. That's just like a huge boost in stamina, especially for Tauren. You know, you also get another boost on top of that. So Horde's really nice for FCing in terms of Wrath of the Lich Kings, because you guys have such a big health pool. There's so much to play around with. Moving on to the trinkets are obviously the basic for every single person. You're going to go with the AGM, obviously, because that shield is essential as an FC, especially for other tunes, but it's mainly essential for the FCs. I cannot stress that enough. It gets you out of so many situations, whether it's in mid, whether it's getting yourself out of the flag room when you're by yourself and your team's controlling mid, if you're in more of a competitive state. There's a lot of different scenarios that you can utilize an AGM for, and that's why it's so essential in the twinking community, because that bubble is just another life form, right? It's like a second life, a second hand, a second chance, whatever you want to call it. That's pretty much what it's used for. If you guys don't have an AGM, what I would recommend is rocking out the Discerning Eye of the Beast, this heirloom trinket. That way you guys can boost your spell power a little bit. I don't recommend the other ones. I would rather just have spell power, just because you're boosting your own heals. You don't want to like take away from that. You could rock the haste, but that little bit of haste isn't really going to make that much of a difference compared to the spell power. I would just rather boost my heals a little bit rather than my haste. And then obviously the heirloom trinket for the resilience, like I was mentioning before. With the Alliance FC, it's a little bit different. Not too much different, but a little bit different. JK. You're mainly just using Silverin. You're swapping out Sail Sylvanas, Silverin, everything else is the same, nothing else to it, except for instead of the Inferno Robe swapping out with this, you could be rocking out the Preened Iron Feather Breastplate and throw 100 health on this. This is like the alternative to Inferno for the Alliance. So this is something that you guys can utilize as well if you guys are wanting to swap out and be your own healer, so you guys can boost your health a little bit, not your health, your heals a little bit. So that's also an option. Same thing, you know, swap out your Aquarius belt for a Girdle of the Blind Watcher. That way you guys can always keep up with the stats and not just kind of like crippling yourself a little bit. And then obviously get the Alliance version of the neck and the ring. It's really all there is to it, to an Alliance FC, guys. Not really different. So moving on to the healing set. Now I say always wear a healing set, guys. This is so essential when it comes to an FC. I cannot stress this enough. There are going to be times where you're queuing into randoms and you get another FC with you. And now it doesn't make sense for two FCs to be running around because you guys are both going to be fighting for the flag. You guys aren't going to be helping your team. It's just going to be a back and forth battle of trying to get this flag, and you guys are going to be a player short from the FC, right? So instead of, you know, a 9v10, you're mainly looking at an 8v10 now, so now you got two people going for this. So instead of doing that, swap into a healer set, figure out, kind of communicate with that other player who wants to FC, who's got more gear, who's a little bit more experience, etc. Whatever the case is, just figure that out, swap into a healing set. Now with the healing set, this is the Alliance side. The Horde side, the only thing that's different, like I said, is just going into the gloves and the chest. So I'll do Horde first just because there's a little bit of different items here. Same thing, you're going to go with the Lucky Fishing Hat, the neck, but instead of the shoulders, instead of the Lasting Feral Heart, you're going to go with the Preened Iron Feather shoulders. Obviously because the intellect and the spell power boost, you guys are going to want to go for this. With the Preened Iron Feather shoulder, or not that, yeah, Feral Heart shoulders, you guys are looking at just stamina and spell power. You guys aren't looking at any intellect. That's why it's nice to have this to boost your intellect, because you're going to be healing more, not so much trying to stay alive. You guys want to boost your intellect so that way you guys have more of a mana pool to be able to utilize. For the cloak, same thing, guys. You're just going to stick with the Spider Silk Drape. Put 70 armor on this because you're going to be dealing with a lot of people wanting to come at you. Same scenario with the FC set. Have multiple of these on you. Obviously, you're always going to have this because of the FC set, but have multiple on you because you don't know what you're going to be going against, what's going to be hitting you, etc. So always have that on deck. So for the chest, you're going to have the Inferno Robe. Put 150 health on this. Obviously, this is go-to for the healing set because of the 19 spell powers. It's just a quick essential, guys. You gotta have the Inferno Robe. For every caster, gotta have the Inferno Robe. It's like a must. So when it comes to the bracers, you're gonna go of the Eagle instead of the Stamina. Boosting up your mana pool once again. So these also go pretty high. They're on the same boat as of the Stamina because these two bracers are like go-to hand to hand, like every twink needs them. These go for my server, same thing, around 2,300 gold. It all depends on the server in terms of how much it costs. So just go ahead and check your auction house or go farm it yourself, whatever you feel more comfortable doing. If you have extra gold, by all means, go buy it. They're pretty common on my server, at least. There's always at least one on the auction house. So, I mean, other servers could be different, especially like the more Twink Prime servers like Mankrik and Old Blanchy. So they might have more of these on the auction house. So like I said, it just depends on the server that you're going to, whether or not they are or not on the auction house, and the price varies as well. For the Horde, you're going to go with the Jute Braid Gloves. Because of the 6 intellect and the 7 spell power, this is huge. And then you're going to plop a 16 spell power on top of that. That way you guys can boost your spell power and heal power even more. And then you guys are always going to be rocking the Girdle of the Blind Watcher. Now, you guys aren't going to be using the Aquarius belt. As a healer, there's really no use for it. You're mainly going to be healing, running around, assisting your team, not really trying to kite with a flag, you know. So always rock this when you're rocking your healing set. And then instead of the scouting pants, you're going to be rocking the Dark Weave Breeches. This is the 4 stamina 7 intellect instead of the 5/5, so you're getting 2 extra intellect and then you're getting 6 spirit on top of that. You guys are also going to put 24 armor on this just to kind of boost that up a little bit so that way you guys aren't too squishy. So this is definitely a go-to for a lot of the healers. And then obviously the Spider Silk boots. no question asked. 4 stam, 4 int, 8 spell power. You're just boosting up those heals once again. And then for the rings, I mean, same rings. There's not really much to it. I mean, if you really want to go above and beyond, instead of rocking the Seal of Sylvanas, you could rock a metal ring of the eagle, you know, get the 3 stam, 3 intellect that way. Completely up to you. I personally would rather have a little bit more health on my pull rather than a lot of intellect, because as a healer, I mean, yes, you are pumping out a lot of heals, but you're not really a main healer. You're more so of an off healer, if that makes sense. You're just putting hots on somebody that needs it and really leaving all the healing to a priest or a paladin. Now, I have seen Resto Druids do really well in healing aspect of things. Mainly if they're the only healer, you're healing the whole team. Those hots go a long way because you can focus on somebody and have hots on somebody else. So healers are always rolling out, but overall, they're a really nice off healer to have. Don't think of them as a main healer though. For the trinkets, you're going to rock the heirloom spell power one, and then you're going to rock the heirloom trinket as well for the resilience. That's mainly just going to be the big bonus for it. There's really no reason to rock the regular one. Might as well have some stats with you. So that's pretty much all there is to a healing set. The alliance is a little bit different for some items, not really all. As you can see, the main things that are changing are the rings, the gloves, and the chest. So there's not really much to it. Instead of the Seal of Sylvanas, you're going to rock the Seal of Rin. So I guess that's where Alliance shines as well. So each faction shines in their own way. But if you had both, obviously you'd be rocking both, best of both worlds. For the gloves, you guys are just going to rock the eagles. Not really much changing here. Just going to keep the same pants on, not the same pants, same gloves on, but changing the pants to the Darkweave breeches as well. And then, like I was mentioning before, for the healing set, instead of having 100 health for this, you're going to have 4 all stats. Does it make sense to have health when you need to have all stats for this? This is improving everything, guys, not just your health. So this is definitely a go-to for the Alliance. As you can see, the health pool and the mana pool are a little different for Alliance because you guys have a little bit more of a variety. I did forget to mention, for the weapon for both factions, you're going to be rocking the Devout Hourstone Hammer and putting 30 spell power on this. Now, I personally like to put 30 spell power just to increase the magnitude of my spells. If you would like to put 22 intellect, that is completely fine as well. If you want to increase your mana pool, I personally don't care that much about that. Like I said, I treat Resto Druids as an off healer, not a main healer. So I mainly go for the magnitude of my spells rather than my mana pool, because I'm not expecting to be healing 24/7 constantly, right? I'm just looking to get a couple hots out, help the team a little bit, throw some fairy fires out there, you know, just helping getting the kills and wiping mid as needed. So for me, I rock the 30 spell power instead of the 22 intellect. But like I said, if you want to swap that up, completely up to you, you can do that as well. And then same thing, you know, of the eagle for the ring of the wristbands. You always want to have these as well. Like I said, as you're going get out of combat, swap into one of these, boost your mana up a little bit, eat, drink, do what you got to do and get right back into the fight. This is going to help you kind of keep things going rather than kind of sitting around waiting for everything to regenerate. But moving on to the stamina set, we're going to start with the Horde. So what I like to do here is have the Tranquillian Champion's Cloak for the Stam Set. So a Stam Set is very nice and essential as well, in my opinion, because when there's times where you're in a competitive scene, or let's say you have, you know, 2 really good premates going on, right, and you're going against each other. Now, there's going to be times where that flag is always being held. Now, when you were in a more competitive scene, you're kind of a little bit more coordinated in the game, if that makes sense. You know, there's actually people coming to kill you rather than kind of running around fighting in mid, dying, etc. Just kind of doing their own thing. People are actually trying to come and get you in a competitive scene, which is nice. And what's nice about a Stam Set is you have healers with you as well. So usually when you have those healers, you want to rock a Stam Set, sit and bear. That way you have the biggest mana pool ever, so it takes them a lot longer to kill you and a lot easier for your healers to kind of, you know, bounce back and get you back up to full health. So with that being said, you're going to still rock the Lasting Feral Heart. You're going to still rock the Resilience weapon. Now the only difference is you're going to be rocking 2 AGMs. Now if you don't have 2 AGMs, no big deal. Just rock 1, throw on the heirloom trinket as well, so that way you guys are maxing out your resil. But definitely want to rock these 2 for the resilience boost. So for the weapon, or not the weapon, for the bracers, you're going to rock the 5 stamina. For the chest, you're going to rock the 13 stam armor one. Everything is just stam boost, guys. Nothing, don't even worry about intellect, because you're mainly looking at surviving. You're not trying to heal, you're not trying to do anything extra, you're just trying to sit and bear and survive and hope that your healers can keep you up. That's all you're wanting to do. For the Tranquillian's cloak, this is a rep kind of cloak that you can also get from the Dawn Blade as well. It's something you guys can pick up if you want. I don't recommend it because it doesn't have any type of resilience on it. But this right here can take you up to 2 to 3 hours depending on how efficient you guys are with this. It's a pretty straightforward quest line. It's a big quest chain that is pretty much like one after another. There's really no like kind of figuring out what quest to pick up or not. You're pretty much doing all the quests in that little mini town in Ghostlands. So go ahead and pick this cloak up. It's definitely huge with a 7 stamina. For the gloves, you're going to rock the 4 stam, 4 int. Obviously, you want some more stam. And then you're going to rock out the girdle of the Blind Watcher. Me personally, when I'm rocking a stam set and I know there's more people coming, I don't really worry about the Aquarius belt because I'd rather have my extra stamina on me. Anything can happen. Any type of rogues can come in, ambush, and just absolutely destroy you. So I'd rather have the highest mana possible rather than just having a health boost that can maybe get me through like one attack, right? There's not really much that can help you out when you're sitting on defense, guys. So just go ahead and rock the Blind Watcher. If you want to rock this, by all means, tear it up. Not telling you can't. I'm just giving you guys some recommendations here. For the pants, you're going to rock the Smelting Pants. Obviously, 8 stamina compared to 5 stamina. That is huge. Although you can't put 24 armor on this one because it's not a bind to equipped. So you're going to put the 16 armor instead. Now, for Horde, this is where Horde really gets favored because you get the Grizzled Boots. Now, you're going to rock these, put 7 stamina on this as well. That's 14 stamina on boots, guys. That's huge. So this right here comes from a quest as well. It's similar to the Jute Braid quest. If you guys, like I mentioned in the Rogue video, don't know how to do this, I'm more than welcome to post a video on how to get these and how to do it efficiently. But it's a pretty straightforward one. It's nothing like the Jute Braid one where you have to go and kill like these 4 packs of elites that are roaming around that are rare. You know, this is a little different. You know, you can get this at any time, so it's a little bit different. For the gloves, you're going to rock the Blood Ring and the Seal of Sylvanas. Obviously, no questions asked. It's just the most stamina output that you guys are going to get out of your rings for the Horde side. Now, for the Alliance side, not much is changing, just a little bit. For the cloak, obviously you guys can't get the Tranquillian cloak, so you're going to get the Miner's Cape. That is the closest option to the cloak. For these cloaks, I did mention that, hey, if there's a lot of casters, get all these cloaks. Don't worry about that. Focus on the armor on this one, guys, because you're in defensive and bear. You want to have as much armor as possible to mitigate a lot of the damage coming in at you. You're going to have people that are melee. You're going to have people that are casters, right? You mainly want to hide yourself away from the melee because you can always LOS a caster. You can't LOS a melee. So that's why armor is essential for a stam set. If you have all casters, by all means, yeah, swap it up. You can have multiple Miner's Capes, but you can't have multiple Tranquillian Coat. Well, actually, yeah, you can. So I would actually go multiple. Don't worry about it. Focus on the armor. You can have multiple enchants, but I would just focus on the armor. Keep it simple. I personally never find myself swapping out of the armor chant. For my stam cloaks, I always stick with the armor. I never find myself swapping it out because there's always melee to deal with, guys. Always melee. It's easy to kite a caster. It's not easy to kite a melee. When you're indoors, that is. So for the rings, instead of Seal of Sylvanas, you're going to rock the Seal of Rin. That is going to be the closest to. The reason why I rock the Seal of Rin is for mainly the spirit and the stamina. You could rock, or not the stamina, the agility, because the agility, as you guys know, it improves the armor, crit, and the damage output that's going out, but it's mainly just for the armor, guys. You could rock double blood rings, but you are missing out on some armor increase from Seal of Rin. For the pants, obviously the boots, obviously Grizzled Boots aren't an option for the Alliance, so you guys are going to rock the foot pads of the Fang and put 7 stam on that as well. That's going to be the closest representation, plus you guys get 6 agility, so you guys get a little bit more armor out of that as well. Like I said, you could do that with these as well. You don't have to run a Grizzled Boots, but I just go full stam. Like I said before, I like to be unique. I like to have different things available to me, but Grizzled Boots are go-to just because that stamina increase is nice. The 10 extra stam goes a long way. For the pants, Smelting Boots. For the gloves, Girdle the Blind Watcher. And for the belt, Gorilla Blind Watcher for the gloves, Scouting Gloves of the Eagle. So like I said, there's not really much to this, guys, for the Stam Set. When it comes down to the weapon, I put 22 intellect on this one. Same thing with my FC set. There's really no reason to have spell power on there. If you guys really want to go above and beyond, you could go with this and put agility on it. I really don't recommend that because it is nice to have some sort of mana. That way, like if you need to throw a quick hot on yourself, I mean, you can do that. There are going to be times you're going to be kiting away. You want to help your healers out in some way or aspect or form. You don't really want to run around and just rely on them, right? They're going to go they're going to get CC'd, they're going to be focusing on other people as well. Even though you are a priority, you have to find yourself in a good position as well. You don't want to be, you know, in the center of DPS where they can just tear you up 24/7, right? You want to be able to kite, you want to be able to LOS, you want to get away from them, throw some hots on yourself, help your healers out, save them on some mana, that way they can continue to keep you up without going and then that way you guys can help keep the fight going, eliminate any threat that's coming at you, and go back and reset and wait for the next wave of people to come in. But that's pretty much all there is to an FC, guys. There's really not much to it, if I want to be honest with you. The gear is just one bit of an FC. I would say another part of the FC is just knowing how to do it. The routes, the jumps, etc., like how to position yourself, how to move out of certain scenarios, you know, where to rotate. You know, I feel like that is a whole separate guide. That's a whole separate thing of learning how to FC. But in terms of gearing, that's all we're going to focus on here today. I'm not going to try to get too in depth of that. Give you guys a little bit of tips on terms of, like, you know, how to kind of play it out and what to do, different sets. I know a lot of FCs focus on just an FC set. I cannot stress enough how important a Stam set and a healing set is. It is such an essential. Make sure you guys are getting that and optimize on that. But that is the gear. We're going to move on to the talents now. So with the talents, there's not really much to it. There are a couple different builds that you guys can run. I have a couple of different glyphs here for you guys to choose from. So with the Glyph of the Healing Touch, this is a go-to for a lot of people as well. This decreases the cast time of Healing Touch by 1.5 seconds, the mana cost by 25%, and the amount healed by 50%. Me personally, don't really care for that because it just seems useless to me in a point where I'd rather use Glyph of Rejuvenation. While Rejuvenation targets are below 50% health, you will heal them for an additional 50%. Now, the reason why I rock this is because I'm always swapping in between, you know, FC, healing, etc. This is good for healing, and this is very good for yourself. When you're below 50%, your rejuvenation ticks are going to hit harder. You know, this is something I would rather go with over something that's going to cast Healing Touch a little bit quicker. If it was not taking away the amount healed by 50%, 100% I'd rock this, but I don't really see too much beneficial value, in my opinion, to go with this. That's just a personal preference. There are people who would rather go with this over this, but me personally, I'd rather go with this because when I'm in my healing set, I can have this take advantage as well, and it'll be very nice in midfield, but it's also very good on yourself as well. For the minor glyph, this is all preference and whether you would have. A lot of people run Glyph of the Wild. It reduces the mana cost of your Mark of the Wild gift and wild spells by 50%. So obviously you don't have gift yet because you're 19, so it's mainly just reducing the main buff by 50%. I don't really care because the buff lasts quite a while. I go with Glyph of the Thorns because it's going to increase from 10 minutes to almost an hour. That is huge. I don't have to constantly reapply thorns every 10 minutes. You know, this is something that can stay on forever. Obviously, dispels happen, so that's a thing. But if you're not getting dispelled, you know, thorns are constantly up. That's huge. For Gift of the Wild, I'm not constantly applying Gift of the Wild. There's really no point. If it gets dispelled, it gets dispelled, right? You apply it when you can. You don't apply it when you're in the middle of kiting. It just doesn't make sense. Stick without it. You can do without. It's fine. For the talents, these are going to be your main two talents all the time, 24/7. You know, Improved Mark of the Wild and Nature's Focus. Those two, max those out. Now, on the second row, this is where you can kind of get a little bit creative with it, not so much. So what some people do is put 2 into natural shapeshifter and put all 3 into subtlety. Now the reason why people are putting this in here is because shamans can purge everything off of you. So having this maxed out, it kind of gives you a chance of them not being able to dispel any of those effects. All right, dispel any damage effects, dispel any healing effects on you. It's mainly for the healing effects for shamans to prevent that from happening. So if you find yourself against a shaman a lot, yeah, run some subtlety. That is nice to have. If you don't find yourself against a lot of shamans and they're not very common in your games, you can go ahead and take these out, go all into shapeshifter, and then put 2 into naturalist. This will reduce some of the casting time on your healing touch. So it's pretty similar to kind of what this glyph does, but not to the extent of this glyph. It just gives it a little bit of reduction. If you don't want to do that, you could also put 2 into subtlety and then max out natural shapeshifter. That way you have a max reduction into all of your forms. Me personally, I would rather go all into shapeshifter and put a little bit into subtlety, just because I find myself kiting a lot. You're going to want to get out of slows a lot, so a lot of shapeshifting is going to be happening compared to healing. So you want to be able to reserve a lot of mana. So this is what I would personally run over all into subtlety and then 2 into natural shapeshifter. Like I said, it's all preference. It's up to you what you want to do. If you want to put 2 into shapeshifter and all 3 into here, and you would rather have a 30% chance of having the reduction of being able to get dispelled, that is up to you. 20-30%, I mean, it's around the same. Yeah, there is a bit of a gap there, but like I said, it's all preference. Whatever you guys want to do, just know that these are always going to be maxed out, and it's these 3 that you can play around with. I know some people are going to say this isn't really useful because it's taking 0.2 seconds away, but like I said, if you don't find yourself against a lot of shamans, this kind of becomes pointless in a way, because there's not really many people trying to dispel your heals. So it all depends on what's going on in your games. If you find a lot of shamans, 100% run this. But that's really all there is to talents, guys. There's not really much to discuss with a druid. They're pretty straightforward, pretty go-to. But that's I'm going to wrap it up here. So if you guys have a class recommendation that you guys want to see next, go ahead and let me below. I'll go ahead and start pumping that out right now. I'm going to work on some other classes, make sure I can get those pumped out as well. But if you guys have a recommendation what you want to see first, I can go ahead and make that a priority of upload-wise. Other than that, it's been Resto, guys. See you guys next time.